Well, everybody, thank you for stopping by the forge tonight. I've got something very cool for you. This is a knife made for a ranger down in New Zealand, a conservation ranger. I like to call him a bush ranger because that sounds pretty cool. And this is a knife made to his specifications. So custom knife build. I want to go over the details with you, go over the sheath, and show you some cutting. So let's get right into it. Stay tuned. Let's take a look at the details here. We've got a 5 3/4 inch 1095 high carbon steel, differentially heat treated, convex ground, fully tapered front blade here. Then the handle, 4 3/4 inch long. Now when he asked for this knife, he sent me a picture and said, I want it about this size, orange handle, upswept blade. I said, all right, I'm guessing that's probably gonna be about 8 ounces. And when I make it all, if you like that weight, which he did, it ends up being 8.4 ounces. So that was a pretty good estimate just from having just a picture to go off of. But when you make enough of these, you have a good idea of what they're gonna turn out like. So this is an 8.4 ounce knife. Now, he liked this design here with the upswept point, a little bit of a guard here for his fingers. And this upswept point is popular for skinning and hunting and things like that. And this will actually do a really great job with field work because of the upswept point, especially when you take into consideration the taper here. So it's got a nice taper all the way through. You can see it's full distal. It's thickest here, and it gets thinner, most thin out towards the tip. So when you're going, caping an animal or skinning, or if you're butchering, this would be a great butchering knife. This would be an awesome kitchen knife because of the width of the blade and the thinning of the spine towards the tip there. So you've got that convex grind, which just works so well for slicing. You're gonna see as we cut through stuff, because that full height convex grind, you're gonna see it slices extremely well, but it retains some thickness for durability. And really with this knife, you could baton with it, you could put up shelter with it, you can do some chopping with it, which he also wanted, just minor chopping. Totally doable with this blade, even though it's a fairly light package. Got some nice functional jimping here. This stuff really locks in your thumb, and that's a good thing because the G10 handle that he asked for, G10 tends to be a little bit slicker than something like micarta, in my opinion, so it's nice to have a little G10 up there. It's nice to have the finger guard in there. Notice the finger guard is fully chamfered. There are no hot spots on this blade. Now, orange G10, why does he have that? Well, of course, he works in the woods and he wants to be able to see it if it comes out, or rather, say you set it down to do something else, turn around, you want to know where it is. So this orange is really going to show very well out in the bush. And I'll tell you what, this is an extremely comfortable handle. Notice how it is there's just a nuance, just a small dip there, swell here, dip here. You'll see that exaggerated on a lot of knives, and I really want to kind of virtue signal their bushcraft knife. It'll go way in and way out and way in again. That actually ends up being uncomfortable. You really only need a subtle swell through there for this to be a very comfortable knife in your hand. Not fatiguing to use, and it feels great. It sits right where it should. Little swell here for where your fingers are longer, and then indent here and here for these shorter fingers. So it feels great, very comfortable for longer type cutting. It's wide enough so that you don't get a lot of pressure on your hand, but there are no sharp transitions here. Another big mistake you see with knife makers, sharp transitions, where the handle, they put so much work into the blade, who knows what they do with the heat treat, and then the handles are just big squares or they're ovals. Either one is a terrible cutting experience. This is what you want right here. It's smooth, it's comfortable, it won't fatigue your hand. You can use it in any grip you'd like, and it's very comfortable. I use it as I'm making it. So I'm making it, and then I'll hold it, and then I'll carve with it, and then I'll make sure I can reverse grip and feel what it's like, and then I'll keep carving it, or keep sanding it down. So the knife is being used as it's being made. I also put a space for a lanyard back there, just because I'm kind of liking doing that these days. That's fun. It doesn't affect the knife at all, and you have the option to put a lanyard in there. Of course, on the spine here, we've got some thinning towards the butt of the knife, and then thick through here, and again, thin with that full distal taper. So that's the entire knife. It's gonna be great for butchering, great for food prep. Like I said, be a good kitchen knife. It really reminds me of just one of those early frontier knives where the main thing they did was kind of whittling, green wood, and a lot of processing game, a lot of utility cutting, and a lot of food cutting. That's what this is. It's not some big clumsy chopper. You could easily baton with it. It's plenty strong for that, but it's not primarily for that. It's primarily a fast, yet long enough to be still able to do some of the big jobs, utility knife for the woods. So there is our overall knife. Now, let's do some cutting with it so you can see how good it really is. One of my favorite ways to test edge geometry and sharpness is to cut through this thick 8-9 ounce leather. Now, if your edge isn't sharp, it just kind of bunches up and it won't really slice through it. If your edge geometry isn't well done, then it's gonna be really hard to get the knife through. If the edge is sharp and the edge geometry as well, it's gonna glide right through. So let's take a look here. Come here, and I just slide through one piece at a time. Really quite easy. I could use this for leather work. I could come down here, I get a little more control, closer to the heel, or I can be up here by the belly where it's wider. Doesn't matter. It slices really nicely through it because of its sharpness and edge geometry. Let's take another look at some cutting. Let's take a really close look at cutting with the tip here. The wide blade and the acute tip makes it be able to slice right through this, even just from pressing down and pulling through. That's a difficult thing to do. But again, a lot of that is due to how much it tapers here to this point. It allows it to slice really nicely, even all the way to the end of the knife. Now, if you take another knife, which is also sharp, but very, very thick on the end, as you can see, Cold Steel Recon Tanto, a knife I love, but just take a look at how that differing thickness and edge geometry changes the cuts. Because now we're gonna have a harder time getting through this. We will get through it, but it's just gonna be more difficult because it's more wide. Now you say, well, that tip is more durable. Actually, maybe not. Because of the heat treat, I bet this tip is gonna be more durable. This tip, as you can see, as it's silver there, I had to regrind it because I actually snapped this tip in a stump of wood. It was a fallen pine tree, and I'd say this was back in 2012, and that tip snapped off, and I was really disappointed. This tip, however, as we're going to see, won't do that because it will flex. It's soft in the back, so it won't snap, and then it's going to be pretty durable, as we'll see right here in a moment. So let's just do a little demonstration on this 2x4 here. Not generally the sort of thing you do with a knife with a tip this thin, but tip's totally fine, totally in place, no problem there. Part of that because it's wide, and so there's actually a good amount of meat supporting that tip. The other part, of course, is the heat treating, and that convex edge geometry, because it's curved like an arc, it does really support the tip well, and it makes for a durable blade all around. Another great test for any knife's performance is just whittling some hardwood and see how easily a knife can whittle and go through wood. So one of the key things you're looking for here is how shallow can my blade catch that material, right? If I have to get a real steep angle to catch the material, well then the knife isn't really going to cut very well. It's going to kind of push in and tear rather than slice. But if I can engage this material at a nice shallow angle, like these nice long straight cuts like this. So you'll see our knife is engaging at a very shallow angle. That is what you want. That's going to make it a good slicer. That's going to make it a good chopper. and a good cutter. The more shallow of an angle you can engage, the better off you are. So there, it's catching, it's biting at that angle. That's good. That's what I want to see. Now remember that angle you just saw. Let me compare that with the K-bar here, okay? When's this going to start catching? That's when it starts catching. Check out the angle when it starts to catch. Look where my blade's going. It's going down in the material. It's almost 45 degrees. Well, that's not going to cut well then. It doesn't matter how sharp your knife is at that point. It can be razor, shaving sharp. It's not going to cut well because it has to be so steep before it catches the material. See that? Now, a Mars Fire knife here is cutting nice and shallow. And even when they're dull, people say, your knives, they stay sharp for so long. I haven't sharpened it for a year, it's still sharp. I know, there's not a chance it's still sharp. It's gonna be dull after a year. But the edge geometry is such that you can get away with a lot of cutting, even with a dull blade, because of that shallow angle. So that is the key to a nice cutting blade. Something that is a shallow angle and yet durable enough not to chip or break. So I hope that illustrates it for you here. So this is gonna be doing some bushcraft chores, a lot of everyday chores. One of those chores might be cutting through 1 inch of hemp rope, manila rope. One of the chores might be cutting through 2 inches, 2 strands at the same time. Very difficult to do. I hope you guys have gotten a chance to kind of try this before because it's not so easy. But let's say, so there's a cassowary on the loose and he's got to cut a rope to shut a gate so he can escape the cassowary. And there's 2 things of rope there. He's only got this knife. What's he gonna do? He's just gonna go right through both of them. Look at that. So pretty stunning what you can do when you've got good edge geometry and a good knife. Customer was also wanting this knife to be able to do a little light chopping, which I think is very wise. You want a knife, especially if you're in thick brush, you want to be able to chop a little bit. Just a little limb, prickers, vines, something in your way. If you're making a survival spear, you want to make a survival bow with it, you want your knife to be able to do a little chopping. So this is a piece of old, hardened, seasoned ash. This was cut down in 2018, and right now it's 2025. So pretty old. And ash is a very hard wood, hard North American wood. But let's just see if this is going to do some cutting here, some chopping. Notice how it's biting it nice and deep. Please don't tell me I went through that and hit the concrete. That would be really bad. But I don't think I did hit any concrete. If I did, I'll fix it. You know what? Okay, look at this, folks. This is real life magic here. I'm gonna fix this. But that hit the concrete. Now, that's not too much damage, is it? Not at all. Went through. In fact, guys, this is, you can't make this stuff up. This is live and in person. Check this out. See that? That's where it hit. Smacked the concrete with a razor sharp edge. And what do we get? We don't get chipping. We don't get some insane problem. We just get that. You might not even notice it. Pretty impressive that a knife that can cut so finely, right? Like a fine Mora knife can smack right into concrete and there's your damage. Not much at all. So I'm of course gonna get this razor sharp before I send it to the customer. But look at how well it takes that. Anyway, let's continue our chopping, but first I'm gonna get something to put underneath the knife. All right, have not sharpened it yet. So check out how it bites deeply into this wood here. I'm even having trouble getting it out. Chopping down deep into it. See that? There's not a lot of mass here. It's just kind of going in there. Now check this out. it's a lot heavy, but notice how it's bouncing off because of that angle again. I can't get the fine angle I want because it's bouncing off. Same thing here, same angle. This bites. See that's biting in? This. There we go, I got a little bit. Mainly bouncing off. So I want to taper this down to here. Watch this here. Pretty incredible. It's actually chopping really well. Biting in, making those long chops. So yes, it is a light knife, but it is also a chopper. This is when you might want that lanyard as well. But you can choke back on it, swing it, it's gonna chop well. Here you can see it's chopping real nicely. This old ash, and you can see I'm kind of doing a little stave. This was for a bow stave. But it's a great job at that. You could do a survival bow with this. No problem. Look, I could clean that up. I can just go flat like this. Clean that up, get it nice and straight. I could take the spine, straighten that even more, make that nice and clean. You could do a lot of work with this knife. Great bushcraft knife. So as you can see, it's a very versatile knife. It chops, it slices, it skins, it does utility cutting. It can really do so much because this is such a classic blade profile. Now, before we get into the sheath, I just want to say a word about the convex grind because we have a really good occasion to talk about it. You've heard me talk about how the convex grind both cuts really well, but it's super durable. And it's more durable than other knives that cut as well as it does. And I always say that, and today we actually had a serendipitous showing of that because you saw the knife strike the concrete and yet so little damage was done. For a knife that cuts as finely and as detailed and as well as this knife does, if you were to strike concrete with it, you would be seeing big conchoidal fractures. You'd be seeing big circular chunks coming off of the knife. I've seen it myself before. Really hard steel, really fine edge, bam, it chips. Or you'd see something completely rolled over, which is not as bad. The chip is really the worst. What did we see when this knife, live action, smacked into the concrete? We saw almost no damage to the blade. You saw that the knife cuts really well. You saw that it cuts better than that K-bar, and yet the damage it sustained was just so negligible. I'm having a hard time even showing it to you on camera. That's the convex edge. More durable than other knives which cut equally well. That's what I'm always trying to say. It's a great balance between durability, extreme durability, and extreme cutting power. That's the convex edge. Now, what I'm gonna do is take this opportunity to show you how easy it is to resharpen this. So it's gonna be hard because you can't see it, but let me show you on a piece of paper. You're gonna see the paper will get caught up where the edge has been damaged slightly. And I don't wanna say damaged, where it's been dulled by the concrete. So let me show you that now. Okay, take a close look. Right there, hold on, there. That's where it hit the concrete, and it's kind of chunky. Now, I'm gonna speed this up, but watch how quickly and easy it is to fix something like that. All right. Go for the paper. Like it never even happened. That's right there is where it got hit. Where's the camera? Right there. Zero damage. That was fast. That was easy. That's how quickly you can bring a convex edge back to razor, razor, razor sharp. All right, let's finish by taking a look at this nice sheath. Now, the customer wanted a really tall sheath, so this knife didn't get pulled out in the bush. That's just what he got. This knife is sunken nice and deep in that sheath where there's no chance of it coming out, and it's got good retention. And as you can hear, going in, also some nice retention there. What we have here then is that 8 to 9 ounce full grain veg tan leather, really thick, really tough stuff, formed to the knife. It's wet formed. The pattern's made, of course, for the knife. It's wet formed. It's hand stitched. Everything there is done by hand, and then it's stained and waxed and burnished and chamfered. And you can see the edges are all nice and smooth here. It's got a low profile 2-inch webbing on the back there where it can just sit flat on your belt. I kind of like this because you can put it on your belt, but it also doesn't stick up and come around. So if you just want to tuck this into your belt or tuck it into the side of your car, or it's better for tucking if there's not a big loop coming off. So this is really nice and low profile and just stitched there to the back. You can see, got a copper rivet just holding this together nice and tightly so it doesn't open up there. And it's just very basic, straight fold over style hunting sheath. Let me show you how it looks when we're wearing it. So here it is. It's a nice classic look. It's very unthreatening. Even though it's a big knife, the orange handle and this kind of long hunter style sheath, it gives fillet knife vibes. It gives just a hunter vibe. It's just not a big deal. So really, it looks nice how it's there. Now it's nice and secure. It's not flapping around. It's really tight. When you want to get it out, just grab the top there, pop it out. And when you put it back in, and the owner hopefully will watch this, I recommend not doing this and going back in, right? That's kind of hard. What I do when I put stuff for the high sheath back in, I just put it in this way. It makes a lot more sense to put the knife in like this. Just a lot easier to do. All you do when you do that is you turn the knife towards yourself like that, and then just kind of drop it between the fingers, and it goes right in. It's nothing fancy. Take it out, use it, and just put it right back in. Nice and easy. So there's how it looks on the belt. This is also sealed up with beeswax. So if you're in the elements, it's raining, you take a spill in the water, this is going to resist water quite well because of that beeswax. It really does make it not waterproof. Nothing on earth is waterproof, but it does make it really water resistant. Now, let me show you how this works, just tucking it. It's very comfortable, tucking it right there. That's a comfortable, nice place to carry a knife. I love carrying a knife there. It's just front and center and easy to get at, so you can just tuck it there. Maybe it's cold and you put on the over jacket, and then you've got an over belt and you just want to pop it in that belt, so you just, boom, stick it in there, right? The little swell here is going to stop it from falling through the belt. Just secure it with one hand. When you pull it out, you can do your work, put it back in. So it's nice, easily tuckable. You can be super cool and go, scout style there in the back. Easy, versatile sheath, but really durable, very, very high quality. Again, all hand done. That red stitching, setting off the brown, a nice little black highlight there. Just really makes this knife kind of the perfect package for what the user asked for. So everybody, thank you for watching. I'm glad you got to see that kind of serendipitous example of the sharpness and durability of this knife. Now, of course, before I send it out, I've got a little microscope that I use. I'm going to look at the edge, make sure everything's perfect, good to go. Take it back to the polisher, take it back, make sure it's perfectly sharp. He gets it in mint condition. These knives come out of the forge dull. I've got to sharpen them anyway. So sharpening out that little bit of dullness is not a big deal whatsoever. Gonna make sure he gets it in perfect condition. If you want a knife like this or another custom knife made, you can send me an email at marsfireforge@gmail.com. You can also visit my website, marsfireforge.com. I got a bunch of knives I've made there. I've got some knives that are ready to go right away. Just click it and you can have them. Or you can put in a custom order there and I'll make you something custom. Same good quality as this, as are all my knives. I also have an Instagram account, marsfireforge. Thank you for watching the video. Please give it a like. Please comment down below with questions or anything like that. I would love for you to subscribe because I'm trying to come up with with videos like this pretty quickly, or rather pretty regularly. And I'd love for you to be a part of that. Thanks for watching, guys. And I'm gonna ship this off later on this week. Have a good evening.